Guess what time it is? It's time for Meet the Scientist Monday, the fun event when we talk about people that are doing science all around the world, not just old dead white men that we read about from a long time ago. Today's scientist that we were talking about, her name is Joan Edwards. She is a biology professor. This is her right here. She is a biology professor, which is maybe one of those jobs where we're like, okay, well, obviously being a biology professor, so biology is the study of life, so think of like life science or a biology class, and a professor is a teacher. So, maybe usually I like a college. So maybe you're like, well, that's an obvious science job. Maybe, but I just want to make sure that we talk about all the different options out there. So, the reason I like this story about Professor Edwards is she is studying these things called exploding plants, like something known as the bunchberry dogwood. Here is a picture. These pictures are milliseconds. So, it takes these milliseconds, the bud opens and explodes pollen into the air, which then, of course, spreads that pollen around, which helps those plants reproduce. So they don't have to just reproduce close by, they can reproduce from all over the place. So kind of a neat biology thing that happens. Anyway, Joan was the first scientist to record vortex rings, which is sort of like in a circular pattern around or away from the plant. And this was a huge groundbreaking discovery in plant reproduction. So the idea here is that these rings ensure that the pollen rises to a high enough height so that the wind can fly it away. And then that helps spread it out. So that was just like a really big deal in the biology world. So it's why she's kind of a cool scientist more than just, being a biology professor. She kind of has some big research behind her. All right, so being a biology professor or a biology teacher at a college, if that's something that were to interest you, you probably are going to get your PhD in biology. This is like a doctorate degree. So it's after your 4-year bachelor's, then after a master's, after that is known as a PhD, a doctorate. So not necessarily being a doctor like a medical doctor, but a doctorate degree. Depending on the college you go to, getting a master's degree might be enough, especially if you've done lots of really, really interesting and important research and had like papers published that people have read. That might be, then you might not need to have a doctorate. But if you become a doctor or get a doctorate in biology, you might range from $53,000 to 105, like almost like actual doubled. But it really just depends on what school you go to. So like a college or university, that average is around $90,790 a year, which is a very, very comfortable salary right now in terms of being able to, make car payments and pay for insurance and have money left over to go out to eat or to buy clothes or to go on vacation, that kind of thing. As long as you're making smart choices about credit card debt and those kinds of things, and not big crazy expenses right away when you're first starting out, that's a very, very comfortable. Versus a school that's maybe not as big or doesn't have as big of a reputation, they're not going to pay quite as much. All right, so a very specific science job, being a biology professor. But the idea here is that, like I've said lots of other times, the more training and the more education you get, whether it's at a school or in a job training, generally the more money you'll make. And again, it's not just about money, but it's about having the kind of life that you want. So, Joan Edwards, biology professor, there she is. Thanks for listening. Bye.